And now turning to our first panel entitled Urban Testbeds, LA Cities Leading the Charge. It is my pleasure to welcome Victoria Simon, Los Angeles County Chief Sustainability Office, Javier Hernandez, City of Pico, Rivera, Michael Samulon, City of LA, and Anuj Gupta, City of Santa Monica.
All right, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. So I've spent nearly my entire career in state and local government, and when you're working on something as big and global as climate change, it can't help but sort of creep into your mind like, I don't know if it really makes a difference what a city or a community or one person does. Like, is this actually making the big change that we need to see? But then again and again, I have actually seen the undeniable power of local leadership. You know, it just snowballs into collective action. So from London's congestion pricing scheme to Medellin's green corridors to LA's zero emission vehicle purchasing collaborative, we've seen cities driving the change that really flips the script on this issue. So in this moment, we need that leadership more than ever. And the LA Games, 2028 Games, is providing that opportunity for impact that goes well beyond even what is just happening in Los Angeles. So today we have 3 cities represented by those exact leaders that aren't just talking the talk, but actually demonstrating the art of the possible. So beside me is Javier Hernandez, Director of Innovation and Communication for the City of Pico, Rivera. We've got Michael Samulon, Deputy Director for Electrification at the City of LA Mayor's Office, and Anuj Gupta, Director of the Department of Transportation for the City of Santa Monica. So first I'm going to open up with a question for everybody. So each of your cities have deployed cutting-edge pilot projects from zero-emission delivery zones to wastewater recycling to even repurposing shipping containers to make parklets. As we look ahead to 2028, with all eyes on LA, this possibility of a pilot project going beyond just implementing here, but expanding beyond Southern California and globally increases exponentially. So what pilot projects or areas of innovation do you hope that your city can highlight through the 2028 Games and that you think cities could and should be deploying themselves? I'm going to start with Anuj.
Thanks, Victoria, and thank you. It's great to be here. I've followed Lacey for a long time. I used to work with Matt back in the day in the mayor's office, so thank you for the invitation. I think in Santa Monica at the Department of Transportation, we are very excited by our progress on our ongoing fleet electrification work with our Big Blue Bus. Many of you may know the Big Blue Bus serves not just Santa Monica, but the West LA region, LAX, UCLA. We have about 10 million riders a year, and we have a fleet of 195 transit buses, and we are well underway to meet or come very close at least to our City Council's goal established about 6 years ago to have a fully electric zero emissions fleet by 2030 or 2031 at the latest. We have currently 19 battery electric buses that had been in service. We just added another 15, so 1/6 of our fleet currently is electric, battery electric. We have about 20 chargers on site, but beyond that, we are about to embark on a major infrastructure project that will give us the ability to charge upwards of another 100 buses on site at our yards in downtown Santa Monica. And I think demonstrating execution, demonstrating success in a very challenging time and a very challenging field is something that we hope to really showcase by the time of the 2028 Games. We expect to have about half of our fleet be fully electric at that point. And I think other agencies in our region are having to sort of adjust their projection to timelines due to resource constraints. But I think we're eager to share what's working for us and demonstrate that going fully electric for public transit is possible and achievable in the coming years.
Great. Michael, how about yourself?
I guess I'd start with our curbside streetlight EV chargers. These have been pretty novel, and we talked to a lot of other cities who try to replicate this, but we have a network of around 600 or so curbside EV chargers. They are attached to our streetlights. They require no physical infrastructure work, no civil. They don't require any permitting because we own the asset and we install it on our own property. So that's been a really it's a game changer for us. And you might think, well, these are just level 2 chargers. We're using the spare capacity that's on those lines, which this goes back to other smart technologies. We upgraded those lights to LEDs. That left a spare capacity to add chargers to them. Worked out really well for us. As we've talked to other cities, we see it's not always quite as easy as it is here. A lot of times the street lights are owned by the utility, so maybe there's more coordination that's required. But the fact of the matter is, not having to break ground, not having to run conduit and things of that nature in concrete, in asphalt, is just a total game changer. And it's worth figuring out how to work out those complicated things, the MOUs between a city and a utility or whatever it happens to be, those soft costs and the soft issues that get in the way, because we all have tens of thousands of streetlights in our city. So I would point to that as one example. And we're moving on that to go to bring your own cable chargers on the curbside soon. So we're really excited to test this out. You should be seeing some of those go live in the next few weeks here in Los Angeles. Just a small scale pilot for starters, but we've seen that vandalism is really a huge problem as well. So iterating on these developments, we're moving to a bring your own cable model. We're working with a company that's electric, but we're open to others, and happy to test out any technology that comes onto the market. This would allow for people to bring their own cable and plug into what is essentially just an outlet on a bollard. So hopefully help cities with the vandalism part. I'll leave it there for now, but those ones have worked out really well for Los Angeles.
That's great. Javier, what is Pico Rivera doing that you think other places need to be picking up?
Good morning, everybody, first off, and thank you to the whole Lacey team for the invite. Really appreciate recognizing some of the work that we're doing out in Pico Rivera. But to answer that question, I really have to provide a little bit of context, because Pico Rivera in many respects is very much a quintessential LA-based suburban community, car-dominated streets, 92% Latino community. But we're in the midst of a very significant transition in our city, where we're now going from this very car-dominated community to a very multimodal community. We're going to have Metro Light Rail coming into our city with a station on one of our biggest intersections. Very, very exciting project. We also are working with Metro and other agencies, Caltrans, to advance the Rosemead-Lakewood Boulevard Complete Corridor project. The vision ultimately is to have a 28-mile-long bus rapid transit that connects the mountains all the way down to the ocean, Pico Rivera being that center point. We're also working to bring in a regional rail station into Pico Rivera that would be serviced by Metrolink, Amtrak, Pacific Surfliner, and then eventually also California High-Speed Rail. If they can figure their things out, right? But the intent is really to hopefully have them come into our city to really help in this transformation. So as we lead into the LA 28 Olympics that are coming in the Paralympic Games, we're going to be playing with a couple of different mobility solutions in our community. So we're obviously going to be leveraging these regional transit, mass mobility facilities that are coming into our city to introduce micro-mobility. We're working with the company Omeo, originally from New Zealand, now based in Riverside. We're looking to bring them in to provide an autonomous bus shuttle fixed service throughout our community that would connect the mass transit lines to all of our respective facilities and community centers in our community. And then that would be the way that folks get in and around Pico Rivera. And then also dovetail that with active transportation, walking, biking. And then secondly, the other thing that we're working on that I think is going to be very important for us in our city and also for the region as a whole is that we're currently piloting an effort to develop a national manufacturing zone for micro-electric vehicles. Oftentimes when you talk about the EV industry, you're talking about the Teslas or the small duty vehicles all the way up to the large scale vehicles like trucks and 18-wheelers and things like that. And often overlooked is the micro EVs, so electric bikes, electric scooters, electric wheelchairs, electric golf carts. We want them stamped, made here in Pico Rivera, California, United States of America. So that's, can get into more detail on that a little bit later, but those are just two of the things that we're working on right now.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
So, Michael, I've got a question for you. The city's Games for All goals and commitments are really ambitious, from improving on the Paris 2024 carbon footprint by at least 10% to a transit-first approach. So at the same time that we're preparing for the Games, we're all facing federal grants being cut state and local budget constraints, and just those everyday barriers of trying to get a project done working in the government. In all transparency, Michael and I used to sit across cubicles together, so I know that this guy knows how to get a verbal commitment into the ground and an actual project done. Do you have any advice or strategies that you deploy to actually take us from, even in these tough times, take us from like an idea, a vision to actual reality? 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. Getting forward movement in a big bureaucracy is, of course, very difficult, and I know everyone on this stage suffers it daily. You have to have a unified vision. You have to all be rowing in the same direction. I think that's an important one. So it is really important for your leaders, your leadership at the top of whatever your bureaucracy is, whether it's a local government or a big organization, big company, to be bought in on the same vision, or more or less the same vision. Once you have that, you can have able-bodied staffers who are ready to go and run herd on things and really begin to move stuff forward. I have found that repetition and pointing to the big picture really go a long way, getting people bought in. A lot of times, again, speaking for the civil service world here, people feel, I'm just a cog, it's nothing, this is not important what we're doing, or things of that nature. And maybe the unique way that I've been able to see things from the mayor's office is you can bridge the gap between the big picture and people's day-to-day lives. And once their day-to-day work lives, and once they see, hey, we're repaving the sidewalk that's going to be the entry to the venue, or we're installing the chargers that are going to run the electric buses that move tens of thousands of people around for those 2.5 weeks. Really draw the connection between the work that people do sort of day to day and how people will experience that work. I found that to be a tremendous motivator. End of the day, you got to have weekly or bi-weekly meetings. You can't let things slip. There's a real day-to-day piece of advice, because everyone's happy to just shoot an email and be done with it. Get on the phone. Send a text. Don't let it go. Just keep at them till they move forward, whatever the thing is. Those are some basics.
No, that's great, and I've seen it in action. I know you're actually doing those things that you're recommending, and it shows. All right, so we've got Michael from the city of LA, myself from the county. We're kind of the big gorillas in our space here. But often the two of us, our cities are really looking to Pico Rivera and Santa Monica for some of the incredible innovation and forward-leaning work that's happening in your cities. So could I ask, how are small and mid-sized cities like yours, what do you do to ensure that you can stay competitive when it comes to like federal grants or bringing in new businesses or startup projects into your communities, by also meeting the specific needs of the residents that are there? And I'll start with you, Javier.
Sure, yeah, I can certainly touch on that. It's certainly no question, and everybody knows the world is competitive. And especially for us small cities, playing in a big ocean with really big fish is very, very difficult. And so we had no choice but to really set ourselves apart. Now, a lot of our good fortune with respect to acquiring and securing grant dollars, and by the way, we've been incredibly successful. I think we've secured over $85 million in the last 3.5 years just in grants alone, based on some of these initiatives that we're talking about here. But at the same time, you still have to compete. But a lot of our good fortune really comes from a lot of our misfortune. Right, you know that there's a lot of emphasis in disadvantaged communities, and a number of other factors here. But one of the things that I really have to, again, set the stage for Pico Rivera is that we also have the largest urban dam in the entire United States that serves as our northern boundary in Pico Rivera. Not to make a really long story even longer, but the Whittier Narrows Dam is at a point of critical failure. As a result, the Army Corps of Engineers has no choice but to fix that project, or fix that dam. The collateral impact, however, we're going to lose 57% of all of our parks in Pico Rivera. We're also going to lose access to our Pico Rivera Sports Arena, which is a 6,000-person venue in our community where we have held the niche in the Latino entertainment market since 1975, and we're losing all of that. So that then sets the stage for need. That becomes the basis of our narrative and how we then compete with all of these different cities. So then the next question is, all right, well, what are you proposing? We understand you're in dire need. What are you going to do? How do you plan to achieve that? So that's where we started to develop, to Michael's very point, a very, very comprehensive vision. We call it the Pico Rivera 2035 Community Revitalization Program. It's very robust, not to get into too much of those details there. You can visit our website to learn more about it, but nevertheless, it's very comprehensive. And that, along with our narrative for need, has really set the stage to go after grants in a really big way. And as a result, we've been incredibly successful. It's now funding a number of different initiatives in our city that has really kind of catapulted us to a leadership role within the region with a lot of these types of sustainability-related initiatives. One being, of course, the National Manufacturing Zone or Regional Rail Station or General Plan Update to really accommodate for high levels of growth and density in our community as well. I mean, we're only, 12 miles away from downtown Los Angeles. We're immediately adjacent to one of the most vibrant industrial cores in the entire state of California, the Gateway Cities, COG, if you're familiar with it. So we're trying to leverage all of these major assets, but then the last thing that I gotta say that really makes us incredibly competitive is our collaborative nature. You cannot do these kinds of really big thinking picture programs, projects, initiatives, policies without developing a robust team. And our team, luckily for us in Pico Rivera, we're a very nimble city. We're only 8 square miles, very small, but we are very united in our vision, from our congresswoman down to our state representatives, all the way down to our community on the ground floor. We are all singing from the same songbook. And as a result, when we apply for dollars, they see that it's not Javier Hernandez from this office of the city manager is applying for dollars. It's this entire coalition of people and organizations and agencies that are collaborating to bring this forward. And for that, that kind of makes for an undeniable grant application, which then puts us in that higher tier for competitiveness.
That's really amazing, because it sounds to me like you're saying that it does actually start from like, what is the need, the specifics of your community. What is the need? Where do we need to build from there? And then you span out, and that's what sets you apart.
Right.
That's great. Anuj, what do you think? I have definitely called Santa Monica multiple times when we're thinking about doing something big, and we're like, oh, Santa Monica's already ahead of us? Let's see, how did they get there? What are they up to? So tell me how you guys set yourself apart that way.
Sure. So, I think a couple of things that come to mind on that question. First and foremost, I think, the big ideas require successful long-range planning. Mm-hmm. And the things that we are advancing now are really enabled by, plans and work that has been done 5, 7, 10 years ago. So just to get back to the bus electrification example I mentioned earlier, a lot of the questions that I'm often asked, or that our colleagues are often asked at events, are but how do the buses hold up, or how do you maintain them, or aren't they costlier, or do they break down more, or can they even manage to ride, survive and have the range for all of your fleets? And those are all questions that we thought ahead, and my predecessors, in our department thought ahead on in 2018, 2019, to do a comprehensive route modeling, to actually test the range and battery capacity required to complete all of our existing routes, to do the training and the workforce development to ensure that our maintenance team could adapt and have the necessary skills and equipment to maintain electric buses, to manage high voltage infrastructure and whatnot, to be prepared for that, right? And when it comes to our mobility work, our success in grants at the state and federal level to transform our streets into complete multimodal streets has been based on a local roadway safety plan, a bike action plan that prior city councils have adopted, that prior staff or current staff adopted a decade ago, that position us for success now, to get the resources, to win the grants, to continue sort of that momentum on innovation. So I think that level of long-range planning, thinking ahead so that you can set yourself up for success in the future, is really key. And then I think another thing, Santa Monica certainly, as you alluded to, Victoria has a reputation of being, an innovative city, a city where, sometimes disruptors, but often folks who have new ideas want to come to because it's a place that may be more amenable to testing things out. But I think everything always, at least from the government side, has to be filtered through the lens of, does this benefit our community? Does this benefit our residents? Will this innovation actually make our services, make our programs better? And I think we have an innovation office and staff in our transportation department but it's always through the lens that we get a lot of pitches, we get a lot of ideas, folks coming to us, but it's through the lens of what problem can this solve, or how can this make something better. So we have now on many of our buses, we have, through a partnership, AI-enabled cameras, as LA and some other cities in the region do, to ensure that folks aren't parking in bus-only lanes or at bus stops, slowing down our buses, creating safety hazards. That's a very clear example of using camera, computer vision, AI technology to enhance our transit service, make it more attractive, make it faster, make it move in a way that serves our needs, as opposed to kind of chasing after every shiny object when it comes to tech and innovation, really aligning it with, does it serve our objective? Does it fit in to delivering for our community? I think is something that's vital as kind of a lens for innovation.
That's great. I feel like I heard from all three of you in the different answers sort of how that vision is so important to actually like everyone moving in the right direction, listening to the community, being out there and making sure that you're responding to their needs, as well as like building that network of whether it's community partners or business partners, people in labor, across governments, that network is also key to actually like getting it to fruition and pushing the project forward. So this is a great space for a lot of that networking and visioning to happen. So it's great to be here. All right, so my last question is that, we're really focused today on 2028, but what we all want to see are investments that leave a positive legacy for our communities. What is your city committing to do to achieve that 2028 legacy and go way beyond that for the region? Does anybody want to? I'm gonna leave it to you to decide who wants to go first.
Okay. All right.
We're in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. So with my electrification hat fully on and locked in, Los Angeles is not going to be Paris. We're not going to be London. We're going to be Los Angeles. So we need to lean into that and put our best Los Angeles foot forward. That does not mean the most overcrowded street full of single occupancy vehicles, but it does mean a lot of motorized activities on our streets. So on my drive here today, and anyone who knows me knows I bring up my little anecdotes all the time, I saw one electric delivery truck, parcel delivery truck, and one electric semi. That was very exciting. That is not a daily vision for me. So I would say legacy of 2028 is that I would not make note of those because they're so common in 2028. I realize it's only 2.5 years away from now, so we're not going to all of a sudden be inundated. But I would like that to be commonplace. And what that being commonplace would indicate for me is on the infrastructure side, which is really where this all comes down to for electrification, is that enough chargers have been put in place, depots, behind the fence in private fleets, public charging, bus charging, whatever it happens to be, that there's so much of it, and so much of it has been built in a timely and efficient manner, which we're working on, and we're hoping to continue to streamline things, that so much of that has been built that a notably zero emission city is seen and noted by others. It's normal for us to see it. We work in this field, but for people who aren't looking at every little electric bus or this or that would note, oh, that was quiet. Oh, that was quiet when that big trash truck rolled by or whatever it was. So with my electrification hat on, that's what I would like to see in 2028.
Yeah, and the city has made that, transportation or like public transportation and a lot of commitments in that direction as well. So that's great. Either Anuj or Javier?
I'll sort of, as a takeoff on Michael's answer, I think, that experience, that transportation experience that we work across agencies, across the region to provide, not just to the millions of people who will be coming to the world, or to the region from across the world, in 2026, but especially in 2028, but especially for our residents, right? This is LA, this is Southern California, and so we are probably going to have hundreds of thousands of folks who get to an event or to a fan zone or to a watch party and don't have the ability or don't want to pay $75 for parking, and actually who may have never ridden a bus or a light rail or a subway before, even if they lived in the region, and making that experience positive, making it safe, making it sustainable, making it really attractive, so that even if you imagine, if there are hundreds of thousands of LA or California residents who try transit for the first time, and even 5% or 10% of those folks choose a little bit differently in their trips going forward to get to work or to get to a game on the weekend because they had a great experience during 2028. That's a truly transformative from the point of view of emissions, from the point of view of congestion, and really all the work that we're doing across agencies, across industries to electrify, to align on transportation. You know, the target has moved admittedly a little bit, or more than a little bit, from a car-free games to a car-light games to a transit-first games. But all of that really is the same theme, right? There is no way that this can be successful if everybody is attempting to get to the venue the traditional LA way. But if we make what we build, that system, if we make it something that's not just for 3 weeks or 7 weeks, and make it something that really is transforming the public transit experience for our residents, for our region, that is, I think, the transformative legacy impact that we have the opportunity to create.
That's great. All right, Javier.
Yeah, so in Pico Rivera, I mean, we're doing a lot of the traditional things that you would expect, especially for a community in transition. We're investing heavily in our infrastructure. We're developing these long-range plans. We're creating the incentive programs across the board, especially for the private sector. But there's really one thing that I really want to focus in on, especially as we lead into the 28 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and that is social behavioral shifts. Right? Like, you could build light rail, you could build the BRTs, you could build these things, but are we certain that they will come? We don't know that in Pico Rivera. To the contrary, I mean, right now in Pico Rivera, we have 3.3 vehicles for every single person in our city. We have about 62,000 people. Yeah, that's why we have a parking problem. Right? It's not really a parking problem as much as it is a too many cars problem on our roads. And of course, if you have a light rail on one of our biggest arterials, which is only going to congest our roads even more, we really have to start focusing our attention on shifting the mode split, right? And focusing on people-based interactions. How can we make it smooth, fluid, easy, convenient for people to actually use something else other than their car? And that's what we're going to be piloting during the Olympic, Paralympic Games. We're going to focus on teaching people how to use these systems, how to get on and off a bus, subsidized transit passes, deploying these micro EVs, electric bikes, but heavily subsidized for a lot of our students, a lot of our seniors, things like that. In fact, this past Saturday was the very first time that our city hosted a Learn to Bike workshop with 3-year-olds. Right? Because it's those 3-year-olds who are going to hopefully ride the system when the light rail is complete, when the commuter rail is done. They need to know how to transition from one to the other. But then, of course, when you start thinking about and looking at our city on a map, and you find that, and it's very unique, by the way, you won't find this in a lot of other cities outside of like the LAs and the Santa Monicas, but we're going to have within a 1 mile radius, we're going to have that light rail, 2 bus rapid transit stations, and the commuter rail. Right, so we're always talking about that first and last mile connection to and from transit. But let's be honest, even the lowest performing microelectric vehicle these days gets 20 miles on a full charge. So how can we leverage that to go beyond that first and last mile to connect people to these transit facilities? And then how do we work with the private sector to ensure that they can accommodate for those devices once they're on site, whether it's a mixed use development, whether it's an all new multimodal park or stadium or whatever it may be in our city. But in the end, again, it really comes down to teaching and training people to interact with this new system, recognizing we're in transition, we're in a renaissance. People need to know how to interact with their future in Pico Rivera. So that's going to be a huge focus of us in Pico Rivera, is really partnering with people, especially our community-based organizations, to then broaden the message out to our general public and really get them engaged, involved, and empowered to really interact with the system as it unfolds during the Olympics.
That's fantastic and really exciting. I love that idea of yes, we can have the infrastructure, but people aren't just going to necessarily come. We've got to actually bring them along. So that's great. So not that anybody asked me what LA County is committing to, but I'm going to tell you anyways.
What is LA County?
Thank you. So we've spent over a year now developing a county heat action plan, and it's soon going to be going before the Board of Supervisors because heat is tremendous in this area, and it has some of the most fatalities of any weather-related event. So it's something that the county has been very focused on, and implementation of that plan is going to be key as we're leading up to the Olympics. And we've been partnering with the Shade LA initiative, which is aiming to dramatically increase the amount of shade infrastructure, particularly in disadvantaged communities, in the lead up, and using the 2028 games as really a catalyst to build more of that infrastructure. So not exactly along the transit lines, but it is going to be very key, when it comes to public transportation, offering that kind of shade infrastructure as well as in other spaces. Well, thank you all. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm pretty excited now for the games and testing out all of this new innovative technology. So appreciate you all being here. Thank you.